Hello everyone. This is Tobi from the Phuket Meditation Center, and you're listening to the Dharana Meditation Podcast. Let's sit together, calm the busy mind, and explore topics concerning character development, meditative training, and deeper self-knowledge. Let's start by sitting upright. Suspend the head from above. As if your skeleton is pulled up by the crown. Let the flesh melt off your bones. Breathe in a way that feels good, that feels comfortable to you. Giving space to this moment to be just as it is. There's nothing to change, nothing to fix or get rid of. Everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Just sitting still, upright, relaxed, breathing comfortably will already help the body and mind to settle down a bit. So then each time you breathe in, feel the entire body. Let your consciousness spread out inside. And each time when you breathe out, notice how the body relaxes a bit more, how the tissues become a bit more soft, a bit more open. maintaining this full body awareness. You can think of your body as being made out of breath, or like a mist of sensations. Feeling the breath in your entire body. And each time when you breathe out, keep releasing, softening. And you will discover there's quite a lot of pockets of tension, spaces in the body that are constricted, tight and tense. And try to soften through them as you breathe out. The feeling is very similar to falling asleep. It's as if you want to fall asleep sitting upright. You essentially do exactly the same, releasing the body. Let everything melt. Letting go of the outside world, the senses. With the difference that we maintain awareness. You can cultivate presence, knowing what is happening while it is happening, while remaining quite centered on the breathing and the releasing. Also know when your attention wanders off and goes to a sound or a smell, a sight, or a thought. Almost like a little CCTV camera at the back of your head that knows what's going on at all times. Knowing when you're concentrated on the breath, knowing when you're distracted, moving away from it. And then more and more cultivating mindfulness of breathing, just keeping the breath in mind, not forgetting it. Breathing in, knowing that you're breathing in. Breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. When getting distracted, knowing that you're getting distracted, and returning back to the breath. no matter what's going on, what happens, keep coming back to the breath. Just only that. Maybe a lot of thoughts are going through your mind, but you can also know whether you're breathing in or out right now. There's absolutely nothing you need to do about your thoughts, but simply come back to the breath, knowing the breath also. Let the breath come into the foreground gradually, and everything else naturally fading into the background. Knowing where the in-breath starts, first moment of it, all the way to its end, the last moment. And knowing when the out-breath begins, all the way down to its last moment. don't mind what happens. Whatever happens is fine. There's nothing to block out or get rid of. We just keep the breath in the foreground of what's happening. Yeah, I hear the car, for example, outside, but I also know that I'm breathing in, that the out-breath has begun, and that it's ending, and it has ended. I don't mind if there are thoughts passing through. I don't mind. I don't care about it. They are allowed to pass through. While they're passing through, I know whether I'm breathing in or out, whether the breath has begun or has just ended. There's absolutely nothing to do about the moment. You can just leave it as it is. Just keep the breath in mind. No matter the situation, whether calm or restless, easeful, stressful, empty or full, just come back to the breath, keeping the breath in the foreground. And in your own time, you can slowly come back, open your eyes, gently stretch a bit. Keeping the breath in mind, even with your eyes open. Good morning, all. Good to have you. Happy Chinese New Year. So I'm going to revisit 3 of the most essential qualities for proper meditation practice that we should all strive to cultivate throughout our day-to-day life as good as possible. Those 3 qualities are quite classic. They're mentioned by the Buddha over and over. They're ardency, mindfulness, and alertness. Those 3 qualities. Often says, for example, ardent, mindful, and alert. The monk is sitting by the root of a tree or something like that, cultivating meditation. Ardent, mindful, alert. So first of all, ardency, or being ardent, is a word that is not really used much anymore these days. Basically means to be enthusiastic, passionate about something. I would define it as wanting to do something really well. Have you ever had that feeling in your life about something you want to do it really well? For example, like folding your blanket in the morning or something like this. You want to do it extra nice. You want to do it extra well. Or maybe painting a picture or something. As you're painting, you really invested in making it as good as possible, like creating a piece of art. It's very, very common that we have this attitude in sports and in arts. Like a lot of sports people, when they go, they want to do it really well. Go to the gym and do the routines extra well. You study up. You want to learn how to do it properly. You get a teacher and so on. You want to do it well. Also with art, dancing, singing, painting. Oftentimes when you watch a painter that is engrossed in painting, you see that they're completely gone. They're really, to an extent, disappeared. Same goes for a musician, like a pianist that plays. They are replaced by the music if they're really good. If they're full of themselves, then there is no such replacement. There's just nervous trying to impress others. Then the music reflects that. It doesn't flow, it's kind of stuck. In the same way, your actions are kind of like art that come from you, whether it's destructive art or constructive art. And if you bring ardency into that, the question is, wanting to do things well, I think that doesn't just only pertain to meditation. So it doesn't just mean as soon as my legs are crossed, I want to do it well, but also having a conversation. Like having that conversation ardently, getting to the point of the matter, making the conversation constructive, helpful. Putting your emotions aside, for example, if it's a conflict situation, putting your emotions aside and opting for reason, for logic. Because after all, it's about solving a problem. It's not about maintaining a problem. What emotions often do is they maintain it and they make it worse. It's like oxygen for fire. It makes it burn brighter. So all these kind of discussions that people often have, like spouses and so on, they go like, we really need to discuss this. And it's already loaded with emotion. Nothing much good can come out of it. It drags on, and then there is resentment after that. Feeling a bit awkward after that. And that kind of digs itself in. It lingers. We store it. It's a memory. It's not only just a memory in our minds that is very like abstract, but also in the body it's a memory too. So a bit of trauma has been created. And that from now on, we will associate that person. We had this destructive conversation that was so painful. We associate that person with that pain. So it's not very skillful. It would be much better to put your emotions aside and perhaps calmly say, well, I feel really heated at the moment. I understand that having a discussion right now is not helpful. Let's discuss when I'm a little bit more calm. And it's fair enough. I think we all feel heated sometimes. We feel angry sometimes, frustrated, impatient. Those things are normal. I'm not telling you don't feel these things. You will feel them. But it is wise to not express them. Just like it is wise that if your house catches fire, you make sure that the fire doesn't go to the next house. You don't want to just have it spread and infect everyone else. Same way we deal with a virus, right? You protect yourself as good as you can so you're not giving it to other people. Like standard procedures. You wash your hands, you perhaps wear a mask or something like that so it doesn't go to others. The same goes for anger. It's a bit like a virus. It's okay to have it, and there's a reason for it. I'm not bashing anger. I think anger is oftentimes a sign that we need to do something that is important, that we are either acting against ourselves or, against a higher ideal or something like that. And then anger, frustration, guilt, and so on come as a result, informing us, what I'm doing actually doesn't really work. Maybe I should change the way I approach it. So it's a bit of a feedback mechanism. But to talk out of that feedback mechanism usually just multiplies it, makes it bigger. The same, by the way, just a little injection that goes for, people sometimes they think you don't want to bottle up anger, you want to let it out. And so you go to the gym and you punch your back or something. I don't think that's a good idea because, again, you're connecting physicality with anger. You're basically training an angry expression. You're not actually dissolving it. You're not solving it. You're hardening it into your muscles, into your movements. You become somebody that moves efficiently with anger in their, engine. So I'm not a big fan of expressing it. Neither am I a big fan of suppressing it. I don't think either one of those methods is really efficient. They're short-term solutions, perhaps, at best. But still, you'll have to deal with it. It's like pushing a problem a little bit further down the road. Okay, you don't have to deal with it now, but it will come up again, and then you will have to deal with it later. So you can't really fully escape it. Knowing that, I can maybe suppress it for a little while. Really, maybe I'm so busy at the moment, I just can't deal with more trouble. So I just push it further down the road a little to deal with it later. Fair enough, that's okay. But you will still have to deal with it. And for that sake, maybe suppression or expression might be okay. Sometimes anger must be expressed too. For example, to very clearly show your boundaries and limits to other people. They know very clearly, like, okay, that's a feedback, I've gone too far. I should not have overstepped that line. For children, it's also very important because they read into emotions. They want to understand, what can I do, what can I not do? And they will usually try to provoke anger in a way to get a limitation. Like, I can't do this. So if the parents are like super soft all the time, very calm, softly spoken, don't do this, don't do. The children will probe. They will push and push and push until something breaks. And then they know, oh, wow, okay, that's too far. Now it has a boundary. It knows where it is in the world, where it can go, what it can do, what it cannot do. So it is important sometimes to be confronted with angry situations and so on, so that we know our limits, that we can know, here I need to stop. For that anger is useful, especially if you're noticing it from other people coming towards you. It's a very clear feedback mechanism. Okay, something needs to be cleared up. So expression and suppression are not always wrong. They're okay, but they're very flawed. Much better method is to actually properly deal with an emotion is to pay attention to it. Not suppressing it, not expressing it, not acting, but sitting and understanding it, being with it, getting to know it. And you can only get to know it if you pay attention to it, like everything. Also, in a conflict situation, when we're talking with our partners and it's a bit heated, then if there is an understanding of the situation right now, if there is attention, usually the attention alone already solves the conflict, solves the problem. Conflicts keep going if neither side is willing to pay attention. But each side individually demands attention. Listen to me. No, you listen to me. That's essentially a fight. Both parties do not want to give attention, but both are busy demanding it. Now that doesn't work out. So if one of those two starts actually giving attention, that's the solution. It's the end of the problem. Oftentimes people get loud because they feel not heard. You're not listening to me. So I'm trying to get through to you. And in order to do this, I have to yell because you are gone far away. You're like withdrawn into your own self. You can't even hear me anymore. So I need to get louder to get through to you. That's a sign that attention is lacking, or attention is only demanded but not given. All these situations in our life are perfect training ground for ardency. Our relationships, wonderful training ground for ardency. Wanting to do this really well, wanting to do the relationship really well. If you're married, really taking the vows seriously, till death do us part, period. So now, no matter what problems arise, running away is not an option anymore. Like being ardent in terms of marriage. Being ardent in terms of how you deal with yourself. Of course, I'm not talking about extreme situations, so like highly abusive spouses or something like that. I'm talking about just your regular average fighting and arguing and bickering and just being unhappy together. Taking responsibility for myself. What would it mean to do marriage well, for example? Well, for me, it really means taking responsibility for myself and making sure that I am at ease. So I'm not bringing trouble to my wife. If I'm the one that constantly has trouble inside, then I'll be the one that shares that with my wife. If I'm ardent about my relationship, then I notice, this is material for trouble, this is potential trouble. I need to deal with this. I actually need to deal with this. I cannot just always say, I'm sorry, and then just keep doing it over and over and over again. Because at some point it means your word means nothing. Your speech is empty. So if we do something, and we do it ardently, we want to do it really well, it really means that actually I have to do something about my own suffering. Otherwise I just keep sharing it with everyone around me. And then how would I go about this? Because now I want to do it well. I ask myself naturally, so what do I need to do? How do I lift myself up? Anyways, in meditation practice itself, ardency means that you want to do it well. You really want to follow the instructions. You really want to make sure that you're applying your mindfulness, that you're applying your alertness, that you want to perform well in that, I don't know how long you sit, in the time that you sit. You want to make sure that this session actually means something. It's not just another chore that is now completed. Check. Move on to the really important stuff now. but it really means something. It's that time of the day when you're extra careful about doing it really well. If you have that quality in your mind and you're approaching your meditation session like this, I already guarantee you it'll be really good. A lot of people become excellent meditators just right before death. Death makes you ardent. You know you don't have much time left. And you will lose everything anyways. You're not stuck with anything anymore that much because, you know, like everything that you're stuck with is going to be pulled away from you very soon. So people get really ardent. Like especially spiritual practitioners, people that have some faith or something like this, they become really deeply invested in that when they know that everything they have been relying on is now taken away from them anyways. So the only thing they have left is themselves and the attainments that they have in their mind. If there are none, you might feel suddenly really like a big urgency, like I need to do my work. Like I'm very capable of suffering, for example. If you suddenly realize that I'm very capable of suffering, and you understand that meditation would have been the way out of suffering, then you come back to the practice. Now conditions are a bit more difficult, so it's always better to do it before things get really bad. But, you know, at least you will now ardently do it. It's not just like that whatever activity. I don't know what the word for that would be. Like something that doesn't really matter. Just like something you fly through, like brushing your teeth. You don't pay any attention to it. You just do it so you can get on with your life. A lot of meditators have that feeling about their practice. Okay, I need to do my practice now. And then afterwards it's done. It's like, okay, it's done. Now I can move on to the next thing. Exercise, breakfast, and so on. The whole point is really wanting to do it well. Putting your all into it. Having enthusiasm, a passion for it. Maybe even an obsession with it. I think everybody that has achieved some sort of excellence in their lives, they are people that are characterized by obsession with what they do. They're like digging themselves in. They think about their art day and night, day and night. They think how they could optimize. They can't wait to get into the next session. They're like full on, like cultivators. Of course, I know this is very rare, and also this is the result of good cultivation for a long time and spending time with good people and so on. But it would be a good sign as a result of ardency. You're well on your way to peace and fast. Ardency would be also the quality of intent. It's like an intensity too. Imagine you're drowning, and all of a sudden, not too far in the distance, you see like a little boat or like a piece of wood or something. Now suddenly, upon seeing that and clearly understanding your situation, now you're ardently trying to get there. This is ardency. It's intensity. You're bringing intensity to the practice. It's very good. All right, so that's one. Second is alertness, a quality of alertness. Alertness also, I use that interchangeably with presence. It means to know what is happening while it is happening. If you do not have alertness, then you breathe in, you know that you're breathing in. You breathe out, you know that you're breathing out. What's that sound? And then your mind moves out. You don't know that your mind is moving out. And before you know, your mind has already grabbed onto the conversation of your neighbors, or that special rare bird that you never heard before. And then your mind grabs onto that, and you don't know that you just forgot your breath. You have no alertness at that moment. Your mind slipped out and you didn't notice. If you have alertness, then you notice as soon as your mind begins to wiggle and is about to slip out, you already see it. So in that moment, you can grab it and bring it back to the breath. It doesn't even have the time to get away. That's a very high level of alertness. So in other words, alertness means when you are not with the breath, you know it. When you are with the breath, you know it. Concentrated, you know it. Unconcentrated, you know it. You know what's going on in there. Where is your attention right now? What are you doing? How are you talking to yourself? You can see it, you can hear it, you can know yourself very well. That's alertness. And quite obviously, we need that for meditation. If you don't have alertness, your mind is going to be all over the place all the time, and you don't even know. And then after 30 minutes, bing, you hear the bell from your app, and you're like shocked. It's like, what? I've been totally distracted. Like I spent 20 minutes doing online shopping in my head, thinking about the stuff that I still need to order, what will arrive today, or something like that. And you spent 20 minutes doing that. And you're only reminded that you actually were supposed to meditate when the bell rings at the end. You might have experienced that before, especially if you're a bit more seasoned. Then yes, that means no alertness. You didn't even know that you were distracted. Okay? Is that clear about alertness? Yes? Everyone understood? The third quality is mindfulness. Mindfulness is a bit of a buzzword these days. Everyone uses it. It's very common. A lot of people have heard it, and a lot of people think they know what it is. Now, it's very common to believe that mindfulness is what I've just described as presence. So oftentimes mindfulness is really defined as knowing what is happening while it is happening. And I think Jon Kabat-Zinn is a bit of a Western kind of mindfulness guru, big personality. He's written a whole lot on the subject. He defines it that way. So he says, for example, mindfulness is knowing what is happening while it is happening without preference or judgment, something like that. Yes? That's what I would define as, this is alertness, this is presence. Knowing what is happening while it is happening, including judgment and preference. That's how I would define it. So I skip the judgment and preference because those are things that can be known as well. I don't have to block them out. I don't have to say, well, I should not be judgy. I should not. Those things can exist as well. And I guess that implies exactly that, to have an open space for whatever happens without preference or judgment. Yes? But in that openness, their preference and judgment can exist. That's important to understand. So mindfulness classically from the old texts and so on is defined as very simple. It's memory actually. It means to keep something in mind. Mindfulness, sati, the word sati, the Pali word is sati, means to remember, to keep something in mind. So that is what mindfulness really is. To hold something inside. To not, what's the opposite of it? To make it more clear. The opposite is forgetfulness. Heedlessness, as the Buddha calls it. Forgetfulness. So for example, if I tell you, keep your breath in mind, be mindful of your breath, then now an intention forms, okay, I'm going to be mindful of my breath. And you're going to try to keep your breath in mind until I say, okay guys, that's enough for today. You can leave. And you move out of the door and you've already forgotten the breath. Because no alertness, you didn't even notice how the mind went to something else. And maybe this evening you suddenly remember, what? Tobi told me to be mindful of my breath. I haven't been mindful of the breath until now. All right? So no alertness and no ability to keep that in mind, to remember that. So this is what we want to train, obviously, because you keep your breath in mind. With classic breathing meditation, what you train is to maintain mindfulness of breathing at all times, in and out of session. So somebody that does meditative training, they aim for exactly that, keep the breath in mind at all times. No exceptions. Showering, communication, walking around, doing the dishes, whatever. You know whether you're breathing in or out. While washing the dishes, you know, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. You train yourself to keep the breath in mind. That trains mindfulness. So if your mindfulness is strong, if your ardency is strong, if your alertness is strong, if all three are strong, meditation is much easier to achieve. Add to this a conducive lifestyle, you're good to go. If your lifestyle is not conducive, then you won't even be able to keep the breath in mind throughout the day because you're way too distracted all the time. Then you'll be just constantly yanked around. Your mind will be yanked around by all kinds of input all the time. So you're basically totally unfree. It's reclaiming your freedom. Mindfulness is that. Being mindful of your breath means you are free. You decide where you put your attention and where you keep it. Not advertisement and other people and what goes on in the world. You reclaim your personal power. You decide what to pay attention to and what not. And what better thing to pay attention to than the very essence of life, your breath. It's a fantastic thing to pay attention to. If you can maintain your attention on the breath, it's really good. Very quickly you will notice that if you sustain it a bit, say your ability to keep the breath in mind transcends a minute. You can keep it consistently in mind for a minute. You'll notice there is shifts happening inside of how you experience your body, how you experience your presence in yourself. It becomes better. It's more pleasant, more fulfilling. It's almost like life comes back into you. It's because you're not losing much energy anymore. You're maintaining a stability inside of yourself. You're making yourself a refuge in many ways. So it's a good thing. Highly recommend it. And it's so simple. There's nothing complex about it. All you need to do is train yourself to keep the breath in mind. I like to combine that just with full body awareness. Putting your consciousness all through the body, feeling your body as you breathe in, as you breathe out, releasing, softening. Let the nervous system relax. Not just being constantly wired, keeping it together. Relax. Just doing that over and over again, you get plenty of benefits. I'd say that's good enough for today. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming. You have a good week. Enjoy.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and had a meaningful time. For more information and upcoming events, head over to our website at phuket-meditation.com. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful day.